Unchurned is presented by UpdateAI.
I think CS leadership is a lot more differential compared to other leaders inside any org. And what that means, let me explain that. What I mean is that if you do not like a status quo, and if you want to make a change, a lot of leadership is about having the influence, permission, access to carry out those changes. But why that is happening? Is it just economic headwinds, or is it that there is some level of leadership that is not ready to adapt to the change and be able to drive those changes inside the organization?
That's it.
Technology cannot solve the leadership issues.
No, and I got a thought on this too, and I think I know why. I really think that it truly is because most leaders in CS have been had an aversion to actually tying to revenue, like true dollars and cents. And it's changed so many times over so many years that we're revenue, we're not revenue, we're this, we're that, we're the other thing, that there has been no like stabilizing force. You talk about the sales example where it's like we had exit criteria for 35 years on a sales pipeline, yet we don't have any of that shit with customer success.
And you're seeing this merger of CS and account management, and it's what you're hearing more and more of. You got Rod Jerkis's book, right, Reach, about the framework of getting closer to revenues. So I'm encouraged by that. And when that happens, then all of a sudden the software is not just going to be a contact center with follow-up tasks. It's going to be something that's more interesting, that is enabling folks to get closer to revenues.
This is the show. Are we here?
This is the show. Yeah. Welcome to Unchurned, everybody. I'm Josh Schachter.
I'm Jon Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm Alok.
And this is Alok. Alok, you cannot speak until spoken to. Yeah. That's the rules of the podcast.
There's a speaking stick that we need to pass around.
Yeah. We like to make it very uncomfortable for the guests and have them just sit there like wondering why they're on the show for the first 2 minutes.
I still think that the next time we have somebody on, that we should see how long we can go without actually talking to the guests. Like if we can make it the whole episode and just be like, all right, guys, we'll see you later.
Yeah. That reminds me of my favorites. Oh, go ahead.
I have interest in poking my nose into other people's issues. So I just generally get in, even if you don't ask me to talk about it.
Oh, well, let's talk about that. Culturally, what is it called? We love to get onto like racy DE&I subjects and stuff. So culturally, what are you talking about, Alok?
I mean, once you grow up in a surrounding where the entire bazaar is of so many different kind of people and everybody is trying to ask you all kind of things. I remember when I was very young, my grandmother used to travel in a train. And by the long distance journey, she would have discussed the salaries of each of the family members, what are her problems with the daughter-in-law and the son. And they would have, and that would be the shared conversation between the entire group of all 5 old ladies. And that was considered okay. I mean, if you don't do that, how will you pass your time? So,
well, you're referring to India, right? You're referring to your grandmother in India?
I'm referring to India. So the bazaars were a great learning place, how to kind of just start talking to people.
But was she at that point
any idea?
Was she interviewing? It sounds like she was actually interviewing people to find, to find a matchmaking. Like
how much money do you make?
No,
do you know my son?
This sounds like a marriage thing that she was trying to do.
That actually happened to one of my friends in Bay Area. One of the Indian old ladies. She was trained in India, and she walked over to one of my Indian friends, female. She was middle-aged, and she started just asked out of complete ordinariness, "Hey, are you looking for marriage?" Completely on the road. I'm looking for a suitable match for my son or my grandson. That was fine.
I think it'd be a lot easier these days if I had the ability to just walk up to somebody in a bar and say, "Are you interested in marriage?" And then just go from no, great, moving on.
You heard that? You heard that TED, I think TEDx recording or something by one of the professor at NYC, who basically is talking about that all the young men needs to go out and do a lot more dating.
Oh, a lot more. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was what's his name? Scott Galloway. Was it Scott Galloway? Was that his
I
podcast?
think yes.
Yeah. I feel like I was just listening to that. All right. Love it when you reference a podcast on a podcast.
Lovely.
So
what are we doing here, Josh?
Well, this is Alok. This is Alok Shukla, everybody. Alok is the CEO and founder of FunnelStory AI. And we're so happy to have you, Alok, on the show. Alok and I just came back from Pulse separately, but we spent a lot of time together and we had a lot of cool experiences and learnings. And so I thought it'd be cool to bring Alok on and talk a little bit about the cool stuff he's doing with FunnelStory, what he thought of Pulse and the trends and patterns that he took out of it. You know, he's doing stuff in AI for customer success. And so his vision for all that stuff. And yeah, John, I feel like our heads.
I just want to know about the food in St. Louis. Like, what did you eat? Yeah, at Pulse.
The barbecue.
What was your favorite?
I will let Josh start with that.
Well, Alok, you're veg, right? So
I do. I can eat non-vegetarian also. So
okay. So that was just a stereotype that I asserted towards you.
I just assumed.
Yeah, I just say
it's a pretty nuanced stereotype.
yeah. I mean, since we're going this direction, right? The barbecue was great, John. Barbecue was great. Yeah,
good.
But I was going to say, I feel like our pets' heads are falling off right now. You know that reference, John?
Mm-hmm. I do. Yeah. Our pets' heads are falling off.
Yeah.
That's a Dumb and Dumber reference, guys.
Yeah. Because last week we had a replay. We didn't have the episode. Week before it was just me and John Gleason, which was great. We missed you and Christy. And then Christy's gone this week. We were supposed to have the CMO of SalesLoft on today.
Yep.
She had to bail. I think she had a personal situation to take care of. And we'll see. We'll see what happens next week. I think it's just the summer of love right now that we're getting into.
No, it is. I'm also the chaos is thick on this side of the coast too. I had my daughter's like school celebration where they handed out awards, and I had to run home to record this podcast, and then I got to go to my son's award. Like, life is just, it's chaos. How do you keep track of it?
Speaking of chaos, Alok, tell us about your founder journey.
That's a great transition, John. Tell us. Let's reference chaos back to B2B sales on LinkedIn.
Tell us about FunnelStory, and then let's work backwards. And I want to talk quickly. I want to talk about how you got there, the origin story.
Yeah, FunnelStory. We built it out our own experiences, all the co-founders. Actually, that is a perfect segue to actually start with my background first, and then I will come to FunnelStory. So actually, I have some time in the podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
So me and both of the co-founders come from cybersecurity. I have worked for 2 decades in cybersecurity. Both of the co-founders have at least 15 or 10 years of experience in cybersecurity. That's all the things that they do. We are here to solve the problem of large data and making sense of insights out of that, because that's what we did at cybersecurity for almost 10 or 15 years. For last 10 years, that has been one of the single biggest projects that I did, whether I was in my tenure at McAfee, Imperva, Shift Left. You look at so many events, attacks happening any point of time, and the ability you have to make judgments in less than 5 seconds on what that means. And
so cybersecurity is all about big data analysis, basically, is what you're saying.
It's happening like that. I will tell you a small story. I was at Imperva in 2016-17 timeframe, and one of the largest shoe company, I'm not going to name it, but they used to launch a campaign online where they would launch a new shoe brand, and they would like to give at least 2,000 discounted shoes to the most important fans. And guess what was happening? The bots used to take away all the shoes in less than 20 seconds. Right? And the entire marketing budget was gone to the bots. And not only was it a disaster in campaign, but the point was that you had to decide within 20 seconds who is a human and who is a bot.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? And you are talking about at least 2 million events happening in less than 20 seconds. And to make sense of who is human, who is bots, where humans are less than 0.001%. Those kind of things that you have to determine in security these days. Because and if you look at that, I mean, and if you look at customer success or sales, and Josh, so many conversations, so many meetings, so many product data points, so many events point of view. The struggle is the same. What matters? Who matters? What is the most important thing you want to do? And that's what we are doing on our side of the house, understanding what makes in the product adoption funnel, what makes sense in from a churn retention funnel, and trying to pinpoint what matters. And we are using our expertise from what we learned in cybersecurity industry to come to field of post sales and make that happen for our customers.
You know, it's funny. You were talking before we started recording. You were talking about your background in cybersecurity, and I'm sitting here before we even started this conversation, trying to figure out, man, what is the Venn diagram of cybersecurity and customer success? But when you just distilled it down like that, like you're doing the same thing that we're trying to do. There is such crossover in making the right decision at the right time and understanding, like making those human decisions quickly is incredibly valuable. I am totally bought in. I'm only going to hire cybersecurity guys from now on.
Well, dude, there's huge overlap though, because like I know of so many, even at Pulse, like I've met so many CS leaders in cybersecurity. We're about to go into several contracts with a few of these companies. Like it's such a prominent vertical in customer success is what I found out in the past few months.
That's so interesting. So you talk about, what's the word? Events. You've used this word a few times, events, right? So with this story that you're talking about with the shoes, 2 million, however many bots are doing this, and they have to make a decision on those 2 million events, which one's a human, which one's a bot. How do you think about events in the customer success space? Obviously, we have so much data, so many tools, and half of them are AI, right? So how are you thinking through kind of that human/AI like modal between the two, where we are humans using automation to make our jobs easier, but that might also false positive or trigger an experience on the digital side that isn't necessarily true, or maybe is marked as a bot or marked as spam. We see this all the time, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
You actually refer to a very interesting problem, which is very unique to sales, post-sales, or customer success, which we did not have it in cybersecurity. So in cybersecurity, when you are interacting with any kind of threat actor, as we call it, or any kind of operation of any kind of a product, all those things are digitally created and digitally recorded, which means if you are an antivirus, you are looking for files which are malicious, and whenever you will find something, you will create an event. So the event is created from you itself, and whether it's a network firewall, so forth and so on. But when you are looking for like what you refer to, there are things which happen digitally. You go to the website or you go to the app and do something there. But then you can have a conversation, which is a human thing. Then you can have a meeting, which is a human and digital thing. Then so the sources of data are not something that you create. It has created outside of your own software or the kind of things that you have not even done and or don't even track directly. Like in the case of Josh, like you're tracking conversations, which is so the first thing has to be the data has to be transformed into a manner where you can say this conversation happened. Now, from a technology perspective, you have to translate that into something that we can identify as an event that happens to be a meeting happened. But if you want to do analysis, which is 80% of AI is getting the data in the right format, is that how do you say that a conversation or a digital experience or a support ticket filing or an angry shout out on a Slack, all of them can be translated into the same event model so that you can even begin to analyze them, right? And you are dealing with so many different types of data sets. So that's that's what we do, but that is where the challenge lies in the post-sales and the sales CS part of the world. It is possible to do it, and that's where the technology has helped us a lot.
So it's looking at all the different data sets, the different types of data, bringing them together, they're telling you a story. I mean, basically, it's probably oversimplifying it, but it's kind of like running a regression analysis in some sense, right? Of like, based on all of this input, here's the likelihood, here's the segment that this customer falls into. They're in good standing, they're on watch out, they're high risk, and you're following their journey through that. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, if I could add, once you convert the data into a common format, so you are looking at, in general, a time series. If you look at a historical timeline of everything that you did, but in the same common format, like think about a wave graph in like in a music album, where all the draws and all the lows are there. All the highs and lows are kind of, you can see as a heart rate kind of a time series, right? And now you could do interesting things. Like you said, you can find out which kind of waves are similar, which means what two verticals are similar, what people behave similarly. What are the different types of waves? How people do their journeys? Do they meet first? Do they go into the product first? Are they specific to verticals? Because understanding behavioral insights of, I will say, the organization, if you think of them as we track a lot about user behavior, but if you start tracking organizational behavior, how they, if you start to kind of visualize them as an entity, what is their behavior? What is their journey? Is there something unique about the journeys of a tech sector compared to verticals? We all know that intuitively, but have we kind of visualized that?
Right.
Have we seen the behavior patterns? Once you understand that what they do, then you start to see that what is the behavior of people who are successful and people who are not so successful with our product. Or let's say people who churn or people who retain, people who are very successful in using our products, which are not. So yeah, I mean, it's not you'd start to do the analysis first, but you bake the data first. Mm-hmm. And all kind of questions can be asked depending on what your business needs are.
So you're basically like transforming the data into kind of a standard plane for each of the customers, each of the accounts, which allows you so that it looks like an EKG type of a graph, let's say. It's oversimplification, yes. Right? And then
begin with the start with.
Yeah.
But I think there is a transformation that is happening, John and Josh. I have my background in cybersecurity, but my role was product manager. I manage products. And one of the things when you start building products is, hey, this is the requirement, this is the data, and this is the UX that would be displayed as. And once you start to define the UI and UX inside your product, you are kind of assuming what kind of questions will come to you. So that you are saying that my customer is going to ask 20 questions, let me have the UI ready for it. But I think that underlying assumption is getting broken in last 1 year. Mm-hmm. Because if once you have the data, you should be able to answer all kind of questions, whether you have thought about it or not. So think about it as the next evolution where the chatbots, for example, what they're doing is that you have the data and can you answer the question on the fly?
Right.
When there is you have not even thought about it. You have never thought about it. Can you think on the fly?
So it's not just like you're not putting in, you're not inserting the business logic and creating the rules in advance. You're learning from the data based on what it observes, and you may not have thought of what it's observing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that makes sense. And I've seen your product. We've used your product. Visually, I'm a very visual person, and I just want folks that are listening to be able to visualize what FunnelStory is. I don't want people to come out of here and say, okay, well, is it like a CS platform? Is it like a mixed panel analytics platform? So explain a little bit about like the use case and the way that it works, maybe, if that's a fair question for me to ask you.
I will go now to the shortest answer that I think we have found a kind of interesting positioning where we believe there is a need for a business intelligence platform for the customer success and in general post-sales teams. Mm-hmm. Because most of the CS tools are very much task-driven.
Yes.
The whole idea of insights, whatever limited insights are available, is to do tasks. But in this post high interest rate period when the both
That's a nice
top
way of
line and
putting it,
bottom
yes.
line are under pressure. The question is, why are you doing what you're doing? And what are the insights that you have to present that if you're not using AI to make those decisions? I mean, I don't think the heads of the organizations are going to allow you to kind of just spend money because you have the budget. So that's the problem we are trying to solve, is to give the leadership and the ops team intelligence to make a decision about what you can do, whom you should contact, which are the customers, and all kind of questions like we just discussed.
And I'm curious if this is also what you're seeing, Josh, in your role. I'm seeing a segment of CSMs that are required to almost have kind of like a little bit of a data scientist hat as well, especially as we're getting into these scaled and at scale motions where it's not just task driven, it's really strategy, thinking about like looking and analyzing cohorts of users and data, data mindset, right? Is this something that you saw as a trend in Pulse? Are you, I'm kind of used to just talking to people and
I think Alok has I think Alok has a very interesting view on this because he shared it with me before. I think his view is that we want to aspire to get there because what you're saying, John, is that CS folks are able to be more strategic, use their time for analysis. And I don't know, have we gotten there fully yet?
Not even close.
No,
not even a little bit.
There's a desire though.
Yeah. So this, I brought in, I should say our scale team brought in Pendo as a tool about 2 years ago. And I was able to get access to it for the key accounts that I manage. And I spent like a good part of last year just like looking at trend lines and just saying like, oh, I wonder if I assume this, but also like show me something that I don't know, and just kind of overlaying those experiences and those journeys and understanding where they're coming from to be able to understand like what success actually looks like. Not just this aspirational journey map that we mapped out 9 months ago, but like, no. Here's the cohort of customers that do all of the things and they're doing it today live on site. And here's the story, right? So that it allows you to make a decision based on whatever you're applying to. And I love what you're talking about, Alok, because this like very much resonates with, I think what I hope is a trend that we see more in functional CSMs, not just in CS leaders, but in active CSMs that are actually making these decisions and using tools that are either AI driven or LLMs that like really help them identify like where is the customer and how do I get to success with them right now?
I think you make a point about Pendo, and I think I have a strong opinion about it. If you don't mind, I share that.
Oh yeah, no, they're right behind me. Like the building is right behind me, so say it loud enough, and maybe they'll.
It's not generally about Pendo. It's more about, and I apologize on the behalf of my product management community where I belong to, that we are pushing our tools to the go-to-market teams, and that's not right. And the reason is this. I think
I would agree with you on that. They're not designed for go-to-market teams.
And the simple thing is this. When you are in engineering or you are in products, we have a different attitude to data. We are exploratory. We want to look at a lot of spreadsheets, and we have enough time to kind of identify patterns, snakes, letters, whatever you want to look at the data and identify your patterns with. And we have enough time. We are what you call diagnostic, not even diagnostic, exploratory, figure out patterns so that we can solve big strategic problems. And then if you go to market team, they really don't care about how the mouse moved from this left to right. I mean, you care about whether the account moved ahead with whether towards the purchase, towards the adoption, towards the retention. That's what you are looking for. So you are very diagnostic and prescriptive. What is happening and how do I get the person to move to the next stage? And we have a persona conflict. Pendo is a great tool, but it is designed for product engineering and UX audience who are exploratory. Yes, you can abuse it to make it work for you, but that's kind of a lazy thinking on the product teams to push it to the audience which is not designed for it. Like, I'm just saying.
No, I love this. No, it's. I mean, as like a Pendo user that I use every single day, like the feedback that I've given is like it's very clear that this is not designed for a CSM, right?
And so, John, will it pick up on insights that you haven't? Like, do you have to actively look for the insights, or will it give you, it won't surface things that you're not looking for already?
They're starting to roll out a bunch of AI suggestions like everybody else. Like that's kind of the new thing right now is I think that's going to make it a little bit easier because CSMs also don't really know where to look. Like that's the other downside. And so this is actually this actually kind of led me to this kind of big assumption is I go to the Pendo conference every year. I live in Raleigh, so they're like kind of the home tech company. And I go to all their events. I really do love their product. But to your point, they're really not designed. They don't speak to revenue even in the same way. Like we're so used to talking in numbers, and it's not that. It's just clicks. But what that actually kind of has led me to I think dig into a little bit is the product needs to meet the CSM, and the CSM needs to meet the customer need. And right now, our customers need us as CSMs to be far more strategic in how to bring them into an ideal state. And we have, I think in general, have kind of been lost in the data because there's so many tools and there's so many things that we have to pay attention to that it's very hard for us to really carve out time to analyze and be strategic in our outreaches, which brings us back to your tool, which gives you, I mean, even like, what is it? Like your pitch is like, I'll give you journeys in 5 minutes or whatever. Your pitch is on the page. Build your account funnels in just 5 minutes, right? Like right there, it'll tell you what they're currently doing so that then you can start saying, okay, well, here's where we need to move and here's where we need to stay. And I think that's the biggest problem is that we just kind of come in saying, oh, I don't know, shit, anything could happen. But what your tool does, correct me if I'm wrong, is it really kind of gives you that target of where they're at. And then you as practitioners get to go in and say, okay, well, we need to move the needle X, Y, or Z in this place.
I will, yeah, exactly. But if I were to rephrase that, I will say data is already all there. Analysis is all there. I am talking in your language, in the world that you live in, and the problems that you have, and guide you and provide analysis in the way your teams can consume. I'm not talking in a foreign language to you. I think that's one of the single biggest issue about. I think I empathize with CS, a word actually that. A lot of time and they're passed on tools which are not designed for them. Like both RevOps and products are passing on tools which do not talk to their language. I mean, we don't have to recreate all the things. There is not always the need for a new technology to be created. We sometimes need to understand the persona of that word. But yeah, you are absolutely right. What we are doing.
Yeah, nothing, Josh. John. I can keep going. Yeah, I got more. All right. So, Alok,
he answered me and he told me I had a great question. That's all I needed.
It was a great question. Hey, everybody, it's Josh. I'm taking a quick break from the podcast to tell you a bit about UpdateAI. I started UpdateAI to solve two major challenges for CS teams. The first is that we save CSMs 4 to 5 hours per week with our productivity through AI. Secondly, we give leaders a window into all the conversations across each account and the entire portfolio. So we help knowledge transfer, we help increase the coverage model of your CS teams, and we help you detect emerging patterns in what your customers are telling your CSMs across all the risks, product feedback, advocacy moments, and expansion opportunities. So come check us out at www.updateai. It's completely free to sign up and trial. Alok, tell us a little bit about your belief around traditional customer success platforms.
Oh, that's a loaded question.
That's why I asked it.
I actually, it's noon at the place where I am, and I thought that I will go back to your first question, if you don't mind, about the food.
The food? What was the food? What was that? What's
My
for
first
lunch?
question: what was his favorite food at Pulse?
You were talking about what we ate at the Pulse, so I thought that.
I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah, the brownies were really good.
The brownies are really good. We actually I and Josh co-hosted breakfast, and I individually hosted a Pulse happy hour, and we also hosted a dinner for my team. But it's interesting. I just wanted to mention it from my own, that I am a big foodie, and I brought it into how I am approaching customers. So my biggest route to meet the customer success leader is on dinners.
Yeah.
I have now organized 13 dinners in the last 3 months and met almost 120 CS leaders. And I always start with this. You meet me if you like the restaurants and enjoy the food. I want to earn not because of my product, because of the food. Because I spent almost 5-6 days just to choose the restaurant, choose the menu.
Yeah.
And I said, I just wanted to mention it because this is something which kind of I enjoy, and it was in my mind that I had to respond to Josh.
Just don't share that story too much with the VCs when you go to raise your next round, and they start asking about your cost of acquisition. But I mean, we're still going to go back.
CTAs are $10,000 meals for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But actually, it's much cheaper actually for cost of acquisition. Also, if you think about it, like from a CAC perspective, but we can discuss it separately.
Yes. That's another podcast. I
actually calculated, and I found it much cheaper. Interestingly.
That's great. That's good.
Well, that is kind of like the typical, like that's, if I'm having trouble getting people into a meeting, I somehow find an assistant that tells me their favorite restaurant or like the restaurant that they've never been to, they've always wanted to go to, and I make reservations. And we did this with one of our customers up in New York last time, Josh. I was up there and we went to this incredible, like Michelin-rated Israeli restaurant somewhere in the city. I still don't really know where it was because I'm not from New York. And they showed up on time and they ate all of the food, and we've had a great relationship ever since. And I really like the way that you phrase that. Like, come hang out with me because you like this food and you want to like experience this thing, and then we'll talk about work, and that'll come. I know that I can solve your problems, but we're not going to talk about that first. Like that's a really,
but John,
really
there's a difference.
Way.
There's a difference there. There's a difference there because I know your budget versus our budget. And so like Alok and I don't have the luxury of inviting you to a Michelin star Israeli restaurant in Midtown Manhattan. We're talking more about like there's Chick-fil-A on the Upper West Side. So
I think it was off Washington Square Park. So like, let's put it into like,
okay.
No,
anyway, we did have a good story about the breakfast that we jointly hosted. We had a really great showing. I think we booked it for like 15 to 20 people. We ended up getting like over 25 people. We ran out of seats. Everybody's really engaged in conversation. Alok thought it would be great to do a breakfast. I was like, well, I would still be asleep if I was an attendee, but let's give it a shot. And I was wrong because everybody was really like day two and they were up and spry and engaged in conversations with each other. And it was awesome. And then I got a little bit nitpicky with the service, talking about customer success.
Yeah, you did.
That's also like very normal for you, Josh.
What's that? That's usual. Yeah. My Larry David came out, but there weren't seats and enough seats. And there were multiple things of cream cheese, but no butter. And the bagels were not split in half for people. And they were running out of scrambled eggs. And I'm looking for this guy in this private area and you can't find him. So I walk into the employee section. And I'm like, hey, excuse me, when you have a second, like, do you mind coming out and assisting us? We got it all sorted. I
love that.
Yeah.
Well, so good. Well, I mean, we did that thing in DC, and didn't we not have plates? Like wasn't that like you just like go into like full on like dad mode where you just need everything to be. It's good for you. It's a good founder.
Yeah, it's good for my.
I think in post-COVID era, what I've realized is that still that bounce off of people who want to meet in person is still going strong, and that is driving a lot of this still that desire to have a meeting. I mean, look, I come from cybersecurity, as I was saying. And in that world, typical CISO will buy 40, 50, 45 products that we calculated on an average, like much more than a CS leader. So those guys get bombarded with the dinners and invite every day. If they have to eat out every day outside, they will. That's how much of cybersecurity budget is invested. But here, I think the opportunity was that that it is not that a crowded market, and their need to talk to each other was there, and especially in a turbulent time, they wanted to meet each other. So it was not something that I planned it out, but when I started to reach out and I saw that people were generally saying yes, like I had a 80% yes rate, and at that point in time, that you are tapping into something which exists, you're not creating something. I mean, I wish to give my name to it, but that was something kind of thing. I don't know how much long it will last. Maybe it's already expiring. But that's the mindset I came from. I didn't want to kind of over-exaggerate that, but it's sometimes great. You tap into things.
But we are going to go back, Alok, to my question about your beliefs and theories around traditional customer success platforms. We weren't that detour into food wasn't for nothing. So let's go full circle and tell us what you think around traditional CSPs.
I think my sense is that. I looked at the problem. I looked at the CS platforms and asked the question without even realizing that was a problem. So in early part of this year, one of the leaders I was talking to, and he was at a large security company, which is actually world's top three, like almost up north of $50 billion in valuation. I talked to the CS leader there. They said they brought a CS platform, and it had taken them 9 months to just implement it, and after that, it had created so much work that they had to hire a bunch of team just to kind of take care of the task that the system was creating. So these platforms are a product of the age of what we call that zero interest rate phenomena age, where your CEO will tell you that I want to hug all the customers from all sides. Don't worry if they're getting squeezed out or not. Just meet them every time, every opportunity you get. I want you to kind of take them to dinner, lunches, have meetings, have everything. And that required a man force, like that required a human workforce, which basically like you would hire 20 CSMs to 200 CSMs to just do that job. So if you have so many tasks, you will do those things. And that worked well till 2021, when the music stopped. And now you have so high interest rate. Everybody's evaluating what is the top line, what is the bottom line. So if I just go from a bottom line perspective, why you need so many people? Why are you actually having to meet so many people? All these questions get answered. And I think that is the single biggest issue. When I met people at these dinners, they said, our bosses or leaders are asking this question that I do not understand customer success. Like there is no theme of why you hire people, so many of them. What is the role? How do I measure productivity? How do I connect what you invest into the revenue? Right? And the challenge here is that platforms still, the way they have been sold over the years, CS platforms are about still this many customers, these many people. There is a direct correlation, which is broken, right? And that's, I think, what the problem is. I mean, if I go to the numbers thing, like in month of March, I was at Chief Customer Officer Conference in New York, and I did a small presentation. I said, if you have, let's say, 15 playbooks, and in a traditional CS platform, and if you have, let's say, 10 steps each, or you can say 10 playbooks and 15 steps each, and you have 100 customers, you will create 15,000 tasks just by the plain multiplication of it. And if it requires 3,000 tasks per human being who can do it, you will require 5 people. That platform itself will create a investment of almost $250,000, taking $150K as an average expense on one full-time engineer to do that job. And the question from a leadership perspective is why? Why do I need to do that? Why do I need to hug all the people? If people are doing the adoption right, if they're doing right, why do you need to ping them every time? And why do you need to ping everybody every time? Like when do you need to talk to them? Why don't you know that? I mean, in the sales side of the house, that problem was addressed a long time back. They care a lot about signals. They care a lot about when the customer is hot. They are always qualifying those things. That kind of qualification does not happen. And the CS platform don't help. The technology have not developed that way. I mean, Josh, like one of the things like you guys are doing, I'm pretty big fan of you guys, is that telling people like when the signal is there. We know that whether you are in sales or whether you're in post-sales, talking to people at the right moments is the key. And talking to the right people at the right moment is the key. But you tell me about one single CS platform which is existing, which even is thinking about solving these problems.
Yeah. Well,
and without that, go ahead.
No, I mean, I cannot agree with you more. I mean, I am so on board with the way that you're presenting this, and I'm so sick and tired of these tools that are just like, it's like a contact center. Like it's just a list of customers and tasks. Like we have Salesforce, we have Monday. What the fuck are we doing spending $250,000 on a task management thing when it doesn't actually give us any insights? We live in the golden age of true insights with big data. And nobody yet that I have seen, and I know you're working on this as well, has like truly understood that you have to reinvent the customer success platform, that it is not a contact center. We have Salesforce. Everybody's in Salesforce. All of that shit is already there. Why do we need to duplicate it with a different layer and a different color and a different UI just to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
When we have this incredible amount of data from our users and we have tools that will allow us to like visualize our customers in a way that we just don't do right now. You're right. Nobody's solving this. Like it's all just marketing and sales bullshit that people are making tons. You're right. Low interest fund off of. Not to hate anybody, but like I know there's some good things, but by and large, like I really love the way, especially as a founder, that you're talking through kind of visualizing what a CSP could be. And I'm curious what like those folks that have been in these CSPs for like 10 years, when they do come onto your platform for the first time, are they like, oh, this is like Greek to me. It's a whole new language, right?
I mean, yes and no, because I think this is also a generational shift. I mean, if you, the thing about people is that unlike the technology, people take a lot of time to change. If you have been grown up in an ideology, to take out that ideological approach is a hard thing. It takes time. There are early adopters who will make change, and then the pressure will emerge. And I mean, that's the hope of every startup, that we keep on poking the bear before the bear starts to respond back in a significant manner, that something happens. So the reaction is what you will expect from people understand it, but people also get nervous, which is the reaction to AI also. Oh, AI will transform the way that I am doing. Can I stop it? Can I become an ostrich and don't want to respond?
Stick your head in the sand. I love that. Yeah.
And I'm sure that all of you have seen that. You want people to become, like, you think about this, like, it's not even about the customer. It's also about a person whose job is to just finish the checklist. And he realizes, he or she who's working on that checklist in a creative, like a playbook task, is saying, I do this checklist and half of them are waste because they don't respond, they don't pick up the call, there is nothing happening, and I'm just doing tasks meaninglessly. Everybody, even from my work quality perspective, I would like to do things that matter, that bring me a satisfaction that I was able to make a change. And if the technology can help me provide those insights so that I can emerge as a hero, even as an employee I want, but that will take time. So the younger generation, the people who are in startups, people who are visionary in bigger companies, we are finding them kind of more interested in and ready to adopt. But I think it will take time for the rest of the org. And one thing, if I may mention, I think I and Josh had a brief conversation on Lorne about it. And this is, I think it has to be said that having dealt with customers on cybersecurity side, also on the salespeople, I think CS leadership is a lot more differential compared to other leaders inside any org. And what that means, let me explain that. What I mean is that if you do not like a status quo, and if you want to make a change, a lot of leadership is about having the influence, permission, access to carry out those changes. If we have a status quo, like I think Nick Mehta yesterday posted on LinkedIn that 52% of the organization to whom they have sold the software had a leadership change at the top level. 52% in just five months of this year. That's just such a large number of transition. But why that is happening? Is it just economic headwinds, or is it that there is some level of leadership that is not ready to adapt to the change and be able to drive those changes inside the organization?
That's it.
Technology
That's
cannot
it.
solve the leadership issues.
No, and I got a thought on this too, and I think I know why. I really think that it truly is because most leaders in CS have been had an aversion to actually tying to revenue, like true dollars and cents. And it's changed so many times over so many years that we're revenue, we're not revenue, we're this, we're that, we're the other thing, that there has been no like stabilizing force. You talk about the sales example where it's like we had exit criteria for 35 years on a sales pipeline, yet we don't have any of that shit with customer success. And I think as soon as we're able to tie it to maybe not like $1 on a PO, but like actually like referenceable dollars and cents that are coming in and the ROI that we're proving, and we have the same, I think, voice at the top for a number of years, we're going to continue to have that argument where it's just nobody's going to have like the buy-in or the confidence, maybe because they're not tied to revenue or because they're not owning a number, for them to be like, well, I can't really speak up because, I don't really want to rock the boat too much. But like if you've got $30 million in pipeline, you're like, I'm going to rock the boat as much as I fucking want, because what are they going to do? Right. It's just there's a different ego, I think.
Yeah, it's happening. I mean, there is this wave coming that CS is getting closer and closer to revenues, and it needs to be that way. And we talked about this with Nick, right, a couple of weeks ago. It needs to be that way, and I think it's happening. You're seeing this merger of CS and account management, and it's what you're hearing more and more of. You got Rod Jerkis's book, right, Reach, about the framework of getting closer to revenues. So I'm encouraged by that, and when that happens, then all of a sudden the software is not just going to be a contact center with follow-up tasks. It's going to be something that's more interesting, that is enabling folks to get closer to revenues. All right, Alok, you're off the hot seat. Thank you for joining us. It was wonderful to hear about your background, about the origins of FunnelStory, about your thoughts on food and on conference marketing and on CSPs and all the like. John, you were good.
I was all right.
You're all right. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks for inviting me.